7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome back to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is our weekend show, and I am very excited because we have football back in the house. These are some of my favorite podcasts to record. And this year, for the first year of our recorded picks promotion contest, however you want to call it, we're going to be on video. So now you can see us, unfortunately, all the listeners and watchers out there, make these picks. See, that's the most unfortunate part there is Gritty. He's a hockey guy. He's making football picks. It is the 2020 edition of our Westgate Supercut contest. We have trimmed the fat on our bets, to say the least. We have had some outlandish competitions here. Spike, I know that you're a little bummed because we don't have $800, $900, $10,000 money lines here that you can get back into games with, but we're going super streamlined here this year, and we are going straight Westbook Super Contest style. 5 picks against the spread or the total with a little bit of a twist. And I'm going to go over the rules here in a little bit, but let me introduce the pickers for the year. Obviously, the regular hosts here, Token Tony, Tony Johnson, and Mr. Spike. Gentlemen, your first initial thoughts about streamlining this contest, and how are you guys feeling about your bets this year?
Doom! It's a new year, new start for Token. So,
and Token, you can't pick ties this year.
No,
I know.
Ties. Yeah, it's tough. Makes it tough. That's right. Yes. No, I'm mildly excited in regards to how well I can actually do at this, because I'm looking forward to the contest. Not really looking forward to my record therein. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. Certainly laying this half a point extra, which I know we'll get into here in a little bit, is a cause for concern, at least on my end. So I'm just hoping to tread some water here for a little while until I get a better idea of what's actually going on in this season.
Yeah, I remember you talked about a guy, you're a guy who doesn't like to bet week 1, but now you're up against it week 1, and you've got to move numbers. I'll get into that here right now. I'll give you guys the rules of our contest here. We are playing for $100, winner take all. We are using the Westgate lines at the time of recording. So right now we're using Vegas Insider to check the Westgate lines every night that we record. Whatever the line is at that time, which we record Friday night, Saturday afternoon, sometimes depending on our schedules, that will be the line that we will use from the Westgate. We each get 5 picks. Last year, we put a disclaimer that you had to take at least 1 total or 1 against the spread. You couldn't take all totals or all spreads. That is no more. There is no limit on the number of ATSs or totals that you can take. You can take all 5 ATS. You can take all 5 totals. There is no restriction on that. If there is a flat number, i.e. like this week, the Las Vegas Raiders are a 3-point favorite. If there is a flat number and you decide you want to be on that, you must move that number a half a point away from you. So again, for example, Las Vegas Raiders are 3-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. You will have to move that to a 3.5-point spread. So, obviously we have to take that into account, especially on a number like 3. The best record at the end of the year will win. We did put a disclaimer, though, just in case with the coronavirus pandemic. If this is not a full season, if we get to week 10, we do have a complete and final contest. Anywhere between 10 and 17, if the season is canceled, suspended, any of those things, we will be honoring the results from week 10 on. We did implement a little bit of a bonus, which I think is cool, if we can actually get there. The highest winning percentage, minimum over 70%, will also win an additional $25 bonus from all of the other squares. And the other thing we added, which we talked about, you can pick a total and a spread in the same game. I know we talked about that last year a bit, about being a thing where when we did our 3-game contest, you weren't allowed to pick a total and a spread in the same game. We have added that now. If you want to pick a total and a spread in the same game, fair game. So, all right, that's going to be the rules for this one. We will have those up. Spike is going to keep a Google Doc. I will try to keep that updated and posted to anyone following our contest, because I know that the one thing that people, our listeners and watchers, are looking out for is fading the fuck out of Token. So you will have that information as much as possible on our Twitter at Vegas Square, so you can fade the fuck out of Token.
It's 2020. Anything's going to happen. Token's going to go like 85% this year.
He'll be solid.
Let's not get that ridiculous first off. Are we going to do my notorious bankroll dump bet of the week too?
Oh.
Maybe.
How many times does Token have to refill his sports betting mobile account?
Did I win that last year? What was the number last year? I think it was like 6.
I think it was something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what the final number was.
I think I won that.
I can't remember, but I think it was over.
Oh yeah. Don't think. Yeah. No, it was over.
Oh, it's terrible.
I mean that part of it was never.
I did hit that one nice parlay last year.
Anyways, all right, let's move on. We're going to talk about the NFL games. It's kind of how these podcasts are going to go. We're making picks. Again, we use the Westgate Superbook line at the time of recording. Obviously, that may move by the time you hear this, and it obviously may move by the time the game is kicked off. But, unfortunately, we've got to take it at this time right now. We are going to run down every single game that is played on that week. And at the end of that, we are going to give you all 5 of our picks. All 4 of us will give you all 5 of our picks. And I'm looking forward to hitting 71% of my picks.
Good luck with that.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if it's gonna happen. But. So, all right. Before we begin, the football season is among us. It's gonna be a weird one. No fans. We saw it Thursday night with about 20% capacity. You got to take into account how the amount of fans affects some of these stadiums. And, we talked about these in the past podcast. Seattle, Atlanta, Kansas City, Buffalo is one of them where the fans do have an impact. So I'm curious. That's going to be the number one thing I'm looking for in not only the betting aspect, but just week 1 in general is and it's going to be hard to tell, but do the fans or lack of have an effect on the visiting teams? Because now they can virtually run an offense uninterrupted in their headsets. So that's going to be the big thing for me. Spike, what's going to be the big thing for you here in the NFL this season?
Well, I think without having the preseason, it's going to be interesting, especially with the quarterbacks on new teams, how they're able to gel with their receivers and tight ends, and, being able to pick up playbooks, being able to, know the right routes, know the right timings and everything else. Obviously, these guys are professionals, but having that chemistry between quarterback and receiver, I think, is tantamount to success. And especially when you get into super competitive divisions, or divisions that are very, quarterback heavy. I'm looking at you, NFC South. This is the kind of thing that can make or break a season if you don't have that chemistry until later in the year. Losing that game week 1, week 2, especially an interdivisional game, that is going to be a problem for you going down for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Tony, what are you looking forward to this 2020 season? A little bit of an unorthodox one.
Yeah, it's my strategy, or at least my thought, is a lot of what Spike said. Honestly, is just trying to analyze what's happened, where I think certain teams are going to go, and keep it really, really simple, and try to get rid of the noise. I think there's a lot of noise of what's going on with all of the whole lack of crowd, no crowd, places, travel, things like that. I'm trying to stick to the basics here and, evaluate the teams, understand how the coordinators and new coaches and how the changes will be, and just keep my nose down and do what we do, I think. And that's, that to me is really what will happen at the end of the day. Is the talent will prevail. The better coaches will prevail, and whether there's fans or whether there's people there or not, I don't think that matters a whole lot. So to me, I'm just trying to analyze these teams as best I can and watch as much as I can. And, nothing really all that different. I'm not treating this very differently actually at all. The lack of preseason Spike brought up, I do think will matter, but trying to figure out who it will matter more for than one team over the other. I think that's really hard to pinpoint. So I'm just kind of sticking with my usual strategy and my usual process.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think the real big thing, again, with the crowd or lack of crowd is, you're at a 2-minute drill, you're the home team, you're up trying to protect the lead, and you've got a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or you've got a guy like Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Patrick Mahomes, if he's ever down in any game ever, basically having no interference, being able to run an offense. I think that's going to be huge for a lot of these teams. That's the big thing for me is, like again, in Seattle and places like this where it's just deafening. If somebody has to run a 2-minute drill in those, it's got to be one of the hardest things to do. But again, if there's nobody there, I mean, you almost feel like I don't know. My interest in it may not happen just in week one. Token is my interest is seeing how much or little that could affect. I mean, talent's going to be great overall, but your guy like Matt Stafford, who has a known tendency to be able to come back in games. Now he has, again, if he's on the road, he has no interference. I think guys like that, who maybe we don't necessarily think of the upper echelon guys, might actually be able to handle offenses better. Well, being able to hear their coach.
Yeah, and as the season progresses, I mean, they're going to be able to build a little more chemistry running those shorter play calls and all that, and the quicker line of scrimmage setups and all that. So early it might be a little sloppy, but moving down the season, you're going to see a lot of progression with that and a lot of quick offense, especially late in the game, the 2-minute drills and all that. So.
Yeah, and the other thing, I mean, we saw, and before we get into the picks here, I don't want to waste any more time. The other thing we saw is the two sports that did it in a bubble have done it right. The one sport that didn't do it in a bubble seems to have been a little bit of a catastrophe in the early goings. So I'm curious to see what happens with moving. I mean, think how many people are involved in an NFL team and having to move every single one of them to a different city every week. Again, I think that's why we put our Week 10 clause in there. So I'm curious to see what happens with that, especially in the time where one coronavirus test makes headlines. So one coronavirus positive test will make headlines anywhere, especially with an NFL player. So, all right, well, it's time to talk about the games. No more chit-chat. Let's get into these. Again, I'll reiterate, we get 5 picks, any number against the spread, any number totals. Best man wins at the end of the year, or Week 10, whichever decides to be the final week of the year. All right, Miami and New England will be the first game we talk about. Currently, the New England Patriots are a home 6.5-point favorite. The total is 42. We get a new regime here with Cam Newton. Tom Brady's gone after 20 years. Spike, I know that you're on the feast or famine train. Traditionally, New England's been able to handle the Miami Dolphins in New England. Again, I don't speak about last year, which kind of wrecked them. But we got almost a touchdown here. Miami is what seems to be a lot of people's sexy pick, despite the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is still starting. They like what they've done on offense, adding Jordan Howard, Matt Breida. Preston Williams is coming back to aid in Devontae Parker. Miami versus New England, 6.5-point spread here, total 42. Spike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was kind of looking at this game with my dad, trying to figure out exactly where that 6.5-point line came from. And really what it comes down to me is exactly what I just talked about in the pregame show, or the pre-pick show, I guess. Talking about the fact that without the preseason, Ryan Fitzpatrick doesn't necessarily have the connection he needs with these receivers. The offense doesn't necessarily know what it's doing. I know that they've added some new pieces, and later on in the season, I can see Miami making some noise. But New England only typically loses this game if it is in Miami, rather than being in Foxborough. So New England, especially with that secondary that they have, I think they are too strong. I kind of have a lean towards New England in this spot, but this is one of those games that I think is going to be very, very interesting. I'm actually very much looking forward to watching it with the new look Patriots. It's probably my most interesting game of the morning slate.
All right, I'm just going to pause right here. So with these games, I'm going to go Spike, Johnson, and Token, and then I'll finish off with a little touch. Maybe a minute to a minute and a half on each of them. Right about what Spike did.
Got it.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, with this game, I agree. I think I'm intrigued to see what we'll see from both teams. Certainly, a lot of new players and a lot of new, I would say, schemes that we're going to see. That we haven't seen from these two teams in a while. So, looking forward to that. This is one of those spots where it looks like the line is probably about right. for me, it's hard to fathom New England losing this game at home, certainly. But, having to lay 6.5 to do it, obviously that's the rub, as always, with point spread betting. And, it's just a difficult one for me. And I nice job with the total too. Total only being about 42 here. I do see this as a little bit more of a slug it out type of game. I think Miami is going to run the ball a ton and/or play more of a clock control, dink and duck style. It doesn't seem very feasible to let Ryan Fitzpatrick just let it go. That's really when he makes grave mistakes and the interceptions pile up, and it's just Miami's going to really slug it out, I think, for a while here. So I was looking at some totals, hoping we were going to get some higher numbers and bet some Miami unders, but looks like they got this one right too. So I don't know what to do with this one.
Yeah, my opinion on this game, I mean, it's going to be a grind them out game. It's going to be interesting how to see Cam connects with this offense, is able to control the ball, manage the time, and fight their way against this Dolphins defense. Is going to be interesting what his role is as the leader of this new team and how he handles it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I wasn't super high on the Cam Newton signing just because I kind of wanted Stidham to be the guy here, despite his showing in the one game last year against the Jets where he basically let the Jets outscore the Jets defense outscore the Jets offense in that game. But I don't know. The more and more I hear things, the only thing that really tilts me about Cam Newton, I like him as a player. I hope he regains everything. The way he types on social media drives me insane, but that has nothing to do with football. So I know, again, there's nothing to do with football, but the way he types on social media, I don't know if you guys have seen this, drives me absolutely insane. He types like a 7-year-old girl. But
okay.
if he's healthy and can recapture any kind of 2015 magic, fuck off, Spike. Listen up, I'm talking to you. if he can recapture any kind of 2015 magic where he was an MVP, led the team to the Super Bowl, he only has to be 3/4 as good as Tom Brady's best years, and I think that a guy like this can do it. And the big question I have is, who's he going to throw it to? And I know that Tom Brady had the same problems last year. Julian Edelman's a year older. I think he's already starting the season hurt. I hope N'Keal Harry takes a big, giant leap forward because I really have high hopes for him. And he's got enough weapons in the backfield. I think James White maybe catches 85 balls this year. Without Dante Hightower, the defense is going to be weird. But they're still, like you said, Tony, in a previous show, one of the best in the league. So I think New England's really going to surprise some people. I know that both of us took New England to win the division. So I think it starts right here, and it'd be an interesting game. But you talked about Miami having to drag it out is going to be the big thing. All right, let's move on to Cleveland and Baltimore. Another game that could be interesting, a NFC division battle that if you believe Talkman Radio, could be a Cleveland Brown division victory on the last podcast. I don't buy it, but you never know.
Yeah, he was amped about that, wasn't he?
He was very amped about that. A lot of chatter coming out of Cleveland last year. A lot of shit talking, and we saw what happened. No disrespect to Odell Beckham with that comment, but not a lot of talking coming out of Cleveland this year. So I'm curious to see. They have the talent on both sides of the ball to put it together. And again, I don't know if it's not easy to stop Lamar Jackson, but there is a blueprint on it, Spike.
There is a blueprint on it, but Cleveland's clearly not capable of doing it. I mean, this is not a good team, no matter how many times what's his fucking nuts gets in a commercial for insurance or whatever, Hulu or whatever the fuck it is. No, I'm not concerned that, I know that there was some swagger about Cleveland trying to win the division, but come the fuck on. I mean, Baltimore is just too strong in every aspect of the game, not just in this game, but for this division. Every time Baltimore meets a division opponent, my answer is going to be the same, that Baltimore will win. It's not about the spread. I'm not worried about that yet. We're going to talk about that at the end of the pod, obviously. But, I mean, it's just, Baltimore wins this game. I mean, there's just that full stop.
Yeah, and you talked about it. Baltimore is a 7.5-point favorite. The total is 47.5 right now. I won a lot of money on a lot of people Really loving Cleveland last year, and that's 9 wins. I pounded the under in books. I pounded the under with friends. It seemed like easy money to me. Just put that many characters in one locker room. It just never goes well. I don't know a scenario where it ever did go well, Tony.
No, it has not, especially with a head coach that's never really even been a coordinator before, and that was a disaster. I was one of the ones I know we had talked about early on that fading Freddie Kitchens just in general was the thought, and yeah, it was
fade the fuck out of Freddie.
That's it. It was one of the season win bets I had as well. So yeah, it was fond memories of that one. But this year's a different year, and we'll see. We'll see with some of the coaching changes and what there is, and how the team is going to look. Not just from the offensive standpoint, which is where the head coach Stefanski is coming from, but how the players react and how they get better from last year. Obviously, as you said, there were a lot of new faces and a lot of new guys playing together for the first time, and now they've been humbled, certainly. And so where do we stand here? And I'm not sure. It's another one of those teams that, I just really, really don't know. But I think we'll get a little bit of an idea here because I think they're going to face quite a bit of adversity in this game against Baltimore. Baltimore's a tough team. And how will they respond to it? Will they just lay down after they're down early in the game, or will they fight back and hang in there? I just don't know. It's a tough game.
Yeah, and speaking of Baltimore, Token, the revenge kind of, they're a little salty for the way the season ended last year. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson won MVP, but you had Earl Thomas, who's not there anymore, talking about when we appear in the Super Bowl. You kind of got one of those cocky mouthpieces out of town in Earl Thomas, but people aren't talking about Baltimore like they were last year, even though the fact that they're returning the reigning MVP, and they still have a very potent offense. Yes,
they do, and I think they improved quite a bit with the backfield of that offense. I mean, they now have a second great running back in that situation, and that complements Jackson's running abilities too.
Yeah, effectively they have three-headed monster, and then if they want to throw RG3 in the Heisman package again, that was a pretty cool little neat trick that they did last year. I don't know how much they'll use it again this year, but J.K. Dobbins, I expect a lot of growth out of Marquise Brown too. I think that he did a lot of work in the offseason, and Mark Andrews, I think is primed to maybe have a Travis Kelce type season too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Baltimore's defense, about the same, probably one of the top 3 in the league right now. You got, on the other side of the ball, you got Cleveland, you got Baker pretty much fighting for his life support right now and his career in the NFL as a starter, if not in the entire league, possibly too. So it's going to be interesting with the chemistry of that offense as a second year pretty much all together, and maybe they can click a little better than they did last year, and maybe some decent coaching experience will help them with that. So.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about Cleveland this year, this offseason, is picking up Case Keenum, that if things don't go well for Baker, they have a guy who did start, for the last 2-3 years in many different locations, who, if things are kind of on that 50-50 ship, he may be able to keep it. And we saw what happened in not Philadelphia, but Minnesota, where he was able to have a good season. You never know. I think, pairing up with, what's the head coach's name? Stefanski. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were together in Minnesota. Anything's possible if Baker Mayfield doesn't get the job done here. So, all right, let me get back to here. We have the next game is Buffalo, the Bills facing the Jets. The line is 6.5 currently in favor of the Buffalo Bills, and the total is 39.5. Two AFC opponents to the Patriots this year, Spike, that Buffalo, again, we keep talking about it. They are a slight favorite to win the division. They're the sexy pick to win the division. Both their running backs, one of them's a rookie, one of them has a second year who has fumbling issues. Josh Allen, you're warming up to him, but at the same time, he's probably not the most stable quarterback really to run an offense like this that needs to be predicated on not turning the ball over. They added Stephon Diggs in the offseason, which I love, but the fact of the matter is him and John Brown do the same thing. They don't really trust Cole Beasley to be the Adam Thielen type to be able to catch 100 balls. So I'm not really sure. This offense seems very strange to me. The defense we know is going to be good. The Jets, probably a dumpster fire as long as Adam Gase is there. This is the week 1 matchup. Again, this is one of those ones that I think that might have a strange the interaction or lack of might have a strange impact on this game.
Yeah.
No dildos on the field this year, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to bring that up. The fact that the Buffalo fans can't go out and smash themselves into tables or throw dildos onto the field, probably going to be a distraction for the team. Let's not lie about that. Yeah, Josh, this to me seems like somebody trying to put together a fantasy football offense with the players exactly what you mentioned. And you don't really know that that's going to work out as well as it should on the field because you need the guys that can fill those different roles. The flip side of that is Sam Darnold has, year over year gotten better. I mean, not to say that the Jets are a complete team and worthy of competing for the division yet, but his touchdowns were up last year compared to the year before. His interceptions were down. Completion percentage is up. So looking better, going in the right direction. Is that enough for the Jets? I don't know. Now that he has Joe Flacco looking over his shoulder and potentially competing for a starting spot, if Sam Darnold has too many bad games in a row, does that get in his head? Does he lose the starting job? I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this one shakes out. I think it's going to go a long way to tell us if Buffalo is as good as we think they are and or if the Jets are as bad as we think they are.
Yeah, that's fair, Tony. I'm a little higher on the Jets than you are. I don't think they're competing for the division, but I think they're flirting with their win total this year.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the season win bets I've taken already. I have them under 6.5. It's not one of my bigger ones, actually, to be honest with you, but still, something there. And I think the point of what will Adam Gase do next really factors into a lot of my thoughts on the Jets. Is I just think he's one of the worst head coaches in the NFL, and guys like that just tend to make really bad mistakes at different times. And I just don't like this team very much. I don't like how it's comprised. Just not a huge fan, and having to go into Buffalo and play a game against the second best scoring defense last year that seemingly is just as good, if not maybe even better, is going to be a tough stretch for them. Weather it should not cooperate either. It looks like they're going to have some pretty big wind gusts, 20-25 miles an hour. It'll be a little bit nasty, maybe with some rain too. So I just don't know how the Jets are going to get any points on this board. But again, do you want to trust in Josh Allen to, lead a team to victory? No, you don't. I mean, he got a little bit better last year, grant you that, but I don't have any faith in this guy either. I have none. My heart-on remains strong for Sean McDermott. That will remain until further notice. But besides that, it's going to be a tough year, I think, for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets, I mean, coaching capabilities with Gase leading this team is definitely going to be a challenge where it's not going to be good, in my opinion. And I mean, they still have Le'Veon Bell, they still have Sam Darnold, but how good is he really? I mean, you got Jameson Crowder, that's pretty good, but you lost Robbie Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, too. So that's a kind of a big piece of that offense for them. It's going to be an uphill battle that's going to maybe fall down quick. And this Buffalo team's competing for the division, one of the better defenses in football, and that offense has some decent bits and pieces for sure to complement Allen. And it's going to be interesting how well Allen actually is able to lead this team, lead this offense, manage the game, fine-tune his capabilities of making maybe a little deeper passes, and in key situations where the game's on the line, 2-minute drill, is he capable of getting the ball down the field in field goal range, kicking a field goal, or for a touchdown even. So it's going to be interesting further down the road for this Buffalo team for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like you said, I look at both these teams' depth charts, and I talked about the receivers, and I like John Brown, and obviously Stephon Diggs is the number one guy. They gave up a lot to get him. I really hope they utilize him like a number one, but I look at the Jets offense. If Le'Veon Bell, again, we've talked about how much of a distraction he's been the last 2 years. If he can get back on track, Sam Darnold has the pieces. I like the Jets wide receiving options as well, especially if and when Denzel Mims comes back. I know he's a rookie, but already in front of him are Chris Hogan, Rashad Perriman, and Jameson Crowder, like you talked about. Jameson Crowder, probably maybe one of the best slot receivers in the game. Again, I think they're flirting with a win total. I looked at that 6.5 too. I thought maybe there's a chance they get to 7. I don't think they beat the Bills this week, but I think we're looking at something pretty close here. So I think that I don't know if the defense is anything good in New York, but I think that maybe they don't have to be against Josh Allen sometimes. So we'll see. All right, so let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are opening the year on the road. I know that's going to take some time. Again, I'm 3 years in. I've never gotten used to the San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers. I still call them San Diego, but the Las Vegas Raiders are taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Vegas Raiders are a 3-point favorite at the Westgate here. The total 47.5. There's a lot of people who are looking to the Carolina Panthers to maybe be the worst or second worst team in the NFL. I don't necessarily think they're tanking, but at the same matter, they could be. I doubt it, because if they're tanking for Trevor, I don't know why they signed Teddy Bridgewater a 3-year deal at $21 million a year. But they've got pieces, but they've also lost a lot. I mean, obviously, one of their big anchors, their bedrock, Luke Kuechly, is not there anymore. The defense just doesn't look the same without him in the middle. And Las Vegas is a new regime here, not a new coaching regime, but I mean, they're in a new city. In a time where they just built a $1.8 billion stadium that no one can go to, and if I don't want to liken it to the Golden Knights, but I feel like, despite the fact that it's NFL, this city could really kind of get bored of a team that's not winning, especially after having a team that did win. So did basically be so successful right out of the gate. Derek Carr, Spike, has no lack of weapons this year after what they did in the draft. Drafting 3 wide receivers this year, 2 back-to-back. So it's going to be an interesting one. It's an interesting game. I don't think that the Las Vegas Raiders really got any better since moving from Oakland, but we'll see.
What, you're saying adding Jason Witten isn't a massive improvement for them?
I think that's exactly what I'm saying.
First, I want to take issue with what you're saying, trying to compare the Raiders to the Golden Knights. There's a massive, massive difference there's 2 massive differences between these teams that I think is going to sway the court of public opinion. Obviously, there are Raiders fans that live in Las Vegas who are going to be Raiders fans no matter what. So
Sure.
The fact that they're coming to town is certainly going to help. But with the Golden Knights being built from scratch in a sport that nobody out here really cared about to begin with, glomming onto them made them that much more approachable, made it that much more palatable to sign on to them. I'm not going to suddenly jump off the Patriots bandwagon to jump on the Raiders one just because they're local. Fuck the Raiders. We've had too much history with them, especially in the playoffs. I'm not going to deal with them. They're stabby fans that love to bring knives to games. Like, it's just not going to happen.
That's what I'm saying, though. I think that the thing is because, we were all hockey fans of another team, and because this team was successful, I mean, I was going to support it either way, but I think there's a lot of fans out there in hockey who, if that team was not good, they would not have supported it. We could be looking at a completely different outlook on, and you wouldn't be holding that banner there in the back of your room. I think that there's people in this city right now who, like you said, may never become Raiders fans, and only might become Raiders fans if they're good. There's a lot of bandwagon here.
No. Even if they're good, the Raiders have too much history with other teams in the league that people are attached to. We didn't have that in the NHL, and there is no history between the Golden Knights and the Bruins. There's no history between the Golden Knights and the Kings. Well, at least not when they entered the league. So people could feel comfortable getting onto that team. It's a completely different animal. The other problem is, and I think that this has left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, is the way that the stadium was funded. We know that the T-Mobile Arena was private funding through and through. But the Raiders stay at Allegiant Stadium. They had the $750 million sweetheart
Appeared out of thin air
government deal from a special session of the legislature that allowed for absolutely no debate. They got onto the floor and they said, we're voting for this. And they didn't actually let people decide how and when this was going to happen. They didn't let any kind of discussion happen. It was a yay or nay, straight up or down. And we were stuck with it. It was a boondoggle. They didn't think about infrastructure. They didn't think about any number of things. And I think that has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Now, obviously, it's the NFL. The NFL rules. The NFL is king, so people are going to go to NFL games as soon as they can go to NFL games again.
To see their team.
Yeah, well, to see their team, but I think that, it's still going to look like the Raiders are successful, even if they are not nearly through and through as popular as the Knights are going to be, But with a 60,000 seat arena versus an 18,000 seat arena, the Raiders are going to look more popular week in and week out, and therefore it is going to skew perception. So no matter what, I'm going to think that the Knights are the more popular team in town, no matter what the Raiders do. Now, all of that being said, we should focus on this game here. And I don't know what to make of Carolina, nor do I know what to make of the Raiders. Neither of these teams blow my hair back. I think the only player that I give a shit on either of these teams, well, aside from McCaffrey, because everybody wants McCaffrey in fantasy, but as soon as he's gone, nobody cares about Carolina again. Obviously the Nathan Peterman experiment could rear its ugly head again if Derek Carr decides to shit the bed. But I think the one to watch for is Josh Jacobs. I think that the experience that he got last year in this backfield, I think the Raiders giving him the ball more and more, showing him more and more trust, being able to use him like a workhorse, I think that is only going to benefit this team that has such a weak quarterback core. And I think that week in and week out, and especially in this game against Carolina, that is where they're going to have to rely on that depleted linebacking core of Carolina, is just run the ball up the middle with Josh Jacobs and whoever else they have back there. I don't even know. I don't even care. Just let him go, do his thing, and that is the way that the Raiders can be successful in this game.
Tony, is there anything they can do with a two tight end setup? I know Jason Witten's 347 years old, but they've got one of the better tight ends on the other side. Is there a way that they can scheme Jason Witten to either be successful or get Darren Waller more looks?
No idea. I have no clue, but what I do know is that John Gruden has a really, really strong history of making things like this work and be very successful. So I went back to a lot of different sort of coaching changes because we have a lot of, familiar faces. I want to see how guys have done, when they've come into new teams. And John Gruden in year two, both originally when he was an Oakland Raider head coach and with Tampa Bay, they took pretty big strides offensively. He took over that Tampa Bay team, when they were already very good. But they actually became a better offense the second year that he was there. They just really fell off defensively more than anything else. They also had some injuries that year. But, as an offensive schemer, he's as good as it gets. Some of these younger coaches are phenomenal too. I'm not trying to take anything away from, Sean McVay and some of these other guys, but Gruden's a really, really smart coach in this regard. So whatever the reason is for Jason Witten, and I don't really understand it either, my guess is if he's healthy enough, he will produce in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how it's going to work. Hence why, I'm not a football coach, but I think this team's going to be better. I think they'll be a lot better. They had stretches during last season where they were quite a good football team. They played 4 out of 5, road games in a row, a lot of travel, and they played well during that stretch. So I like this team going forward. I haven't made any bets on them, per se, but I think they can compete in this division. I don't know if they can beat Kansas City, in a game, but I still think they'll compete. And, again, we don't know what we're getting with Carolina. I completely agree with Spike. Matt Rule, again, has taken over teams in college and done extremely well in his first season, so I'm not putting anything past him. I think they'll be a fine enough team. I would not put them in the bottom 2 or 3 when season end. I think it'll be very similar to a Miami situation. They might start out slow, but I think they'll improve as the season goes on. So, but in regards to this game, no really any idea how it's going to go. It's a weird start for Vegas to have to travel across the country and play, first game. It's a strange game.
Yeah, and you mentioned Carolina token. I look at this offense and even the defense. Despite losing Kuechly, I still like a lot of the pieces they still have there. Trey Boston coming over, the second round draft pick Gross Matos, Brian Burns out of Florida State, another good defense. I think they still have a really strong core. And you look at this offense. I mean, DJ Moore, very, very promising receiver this year. You just talked about Robbie Anderson, a big loss for the Jets. He's got to be a big ad for the Carolina Panthers at that point.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And Christian McCaffrey, I mean, what can be said that hasn't already? This is all predicated on Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm really rooting hard for Teddy Bridgewater. I feel like he's gotten, I wouldn't say a bad rap, but I feel like he has he was better. He deserves better than the situation he's been in. And again, an unfortunate injury kind of put him in that situation. I think this is his time to shine. And like you said, like Tony said, Matt Rule's been doing some pretty good things.
Yeah, I mean, at least he didn't come in Carolina in an ambulance, kind of like Bradford did in Arizona when he got moved over to Arizona.
Okay.
And then, I mean, this Carolina team is actually kind of like a surprise contender almost. Both sides of the ball, I think they're going to fall a bit short, but they have enough bits and pieces, and once they gain a little chemistry, they are going to be a force to be reckoned with a few years down the road if Bridgewater can contain them and be healthy. This Raiders team, it's a lot of second and third year guys. It's going to be what they developed into, what they learned from the chemistry from last year, and what they're able to put together. I just don't like Carr as the quarterback for them. I mean,
agreed.
Yeah, they've got to move on from him if they want to win and compete for even a wild card spot.
I thought they'd move on from him coming into Vegas. But,
I thought so too, and
he might be too married to that contract, unfortunately, right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I mean, some of their picks in the draft really surprised me, especially that first wide receiver they took, Ruggs. I mean, he looks good, but I don't think he was the best fit for them.
Ooh, I like him a lot.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting what him and, I mean, second year now we have Jacobs again. He looks pretty promising, but this Raiders team, they've got to change the leadership role of the quarterback situation and move on from Carr if they really want to compete and win.
Maybe they tank for Trevor. I doubt it.
Maybe.
All right, let's move over into one of the more intriguing games, in my opinion, that we're going to watch this week, and that's Seattle versus Atlanta. Again, in the NFC South, Atlanta was not very good last year. They're surprisingly trendy to be much improved. Again, I get to watch Russell Wilson, even though Tony knows that I'm not super high on that team this year. The current line is Seattle, a 2.5-point road favorite. The over-under is 49. We know Seattle's traditional history of struggling when they have to go west to east and play early games, Spike. But this has got to be the last year for Matt Ryan to do something. He's got everything now. He's got a good running back. He's got receivers. He did lose Austin Hooper, which I don't love that for him. But, I mean, how many years – I say this every time. Matt Ryan has had one good year, and he's been very average all of the rest. And they just keep handing him deals and expecting him to replenish that 2017 year. And I don't think it's him.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think that they are an interesting study. I'm not entirely sure that Matt Ryan brings enough to the table to really get them over the hump year after year to make them the team that they could/should be. But, I mean, he's had good seasons with Atlanta. He's had winning seasons. He's also had bad seasons and losing seasons. But the problem is, if you try to replace him, who else in the league would you get that is as good or better, that's going to get you better than 8-8 every year, that you could reasonably get? I mean,
well, it's the same conversation we have with Matt Stafford every year. At some point, even though you may not get somebody better, I'm guessing you were just going to say that. Even though you may not get somebody better, you maybe get somebody more being able to develop to pass Stafford.
Sure. Yeah. And, you can always take a chance. And then there's always the guys coming out of college as well. You can take a chance on one of them. But I don't know. I don't know that they necessarily think that way. I mean, they've had a guy that's been successful in the past, and you don't want to bring in the unknown. You don't want to bring in the guy that could potentially, if you're going 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 every year with the occasional 12-4 thrown in, you don't want to bring in the guy that's never been tested, and all of a sudden he's going to make you 6-10 or worse every season. But, Matt Ryan's been an interesting case. Obviously, as a BC guy, I'm a little bit biased. I appreciate what he's done in this league, but I think they are probably going to be an above average to pretty good team in a slaughtering type division, and they're just going to get buried by the end of the year when we see what Tampa Bay, New Orleans, and dare I say Carolina do by week 17. So no, I think this is going to be a good, fun, interesting matchup, worth a watch if you are in that local market. The line moving from opening at Seattle -1 to moving to Seattle -2.5 shows what people think about Atlanta's rebuilding. But I don't know. I kind of like what they've done for the offense. I kind of like where they are on defense. I think they can put up a good fight in this game.
Yeah, I'm also pretty pro Atlanta just in general. I think this team's going to be a lot better than they were last year. They had a lot of injuries on both sides of the ball last year. People forget they lost 6 starters on defense by when all was said and done. And they had, of course, that, running back issues and a couple of linemen early on in the season. And they were really behind the 8 ball right away. I just don't think the issue is really at all with Matt Ryan. It's just simply with, the rest of the team and, not exactly the head coaching prowess that you would necessarily want. Guys that are blowing, 20-plus point leads in Super Bowls, just not exactly my cup of tea. So I'm surprised that they didn't move on. But it is what it is. I still think the team is of decent quality. And, I'm not as scared of this division as a lot of other people. I don't think New Orleans is nearly as good as many have brought out. Drew Brees, when he came back from that injury, and maybe that was injury related, could not throw the ball down the field. He was absolutely abysmal throwing the ball down the field. He had no zip. He had no arc. He had nothing. It wasn't as accurate as usual. If that's maintains, that's a problem. And that goes right to Tampa Bay, too, is how is that offense going to be different, with Tom Brady, who can't really throw the ball down the field either anymore. So, I don't know. I actually think they have a decent chance here to hang in there in this division. And, Seattle, I'm with you, Aaron. I think this is a team that's kind of regressing a little bit, and not because of your boy Russell Wilson, not in the least. I think he's kind of the glue that's holding everything together. It's everybody really else around him. I think it'll be a good game. And, again, a really weird, tough spot for Seattle to play this, strange non-division game across the United States I just don't like it. I don't like the spot here for Seattle. So, even as an out-of-market guy, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what Atlanta looks like in this first game.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that we have 3 West Coast teams all traveling east. You have Las Vegas, you have Seattle, and you have the Chargers.
Yeah.
It was really weird to start the season to put these guys in that kind of spot, even though
that's not right.
Most of them are playing teams that they're either competitive or better. But that's a weird spot for me. But I guess somebody had to do it. You only have a certain number of teams. But,
Exactly, and to say the least, this is a good matchup. Atlanta should be improved from last season. Seattle, it's going to be interesting. Wide receiver core, what they are able to do, helping Wilson hopefully, as well as the running game. It's going to be interesting if they can contain the ball, not make lousy turnovers, just keep possession and force it down the field goal range, and just burn some clock and keep burning that defense against them. So.
Yeah, I don't know. The running backs have been a walking injury report over the last half a season, even though it was last season. But they've been, haven't really been able to rely on the health of that team. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think that again, Seattle historically does not travel west to east very well, and first game of the year, no preseason, might be an interesting one, especially if you guys are right on the fact that Atlanta is going to be much improved, being healthy this year. Again, I'm not really high on Matt Ryan. Just overall, but he may be, like you said, enough to get the job done if everybody can stay healthy, especially the linebacker and the safety. They can never stay healthy. Keanu, not Reeves, but Keanu Neil. And I forget the linebacker's name, but it seems like every year they miss half a year. Keanu Neil especially goes down. He's a really good safety when he's healthy. So it'll be interesting. Again, you're right. The division of doom, as they like to call it, may not be as ferocious as they say it is, Tony. But all right, we got the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the Washington football team. That's going to be a fun one to say every week. The line currently right now at the Westgate is 5.5 in favor of Philadelphia. The total 42 right now. I got to say, despite the fact that I like Ron Rivera as a coach, Washington football team is a dumpster fire as we speak. And I don't see that really getting better. I don't dislike Dwayne Haskins. I just thought he'd play with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, and it seems like he's a little bit more laissez-faire than I like. Maybe that's only based on a couple of incidents, but I don't see Dwayne Haskins really having a big year here. I'm kind of interested to see if Alex Smith makes a return to this. I know he's the backup or third-string quarterback. Kind of interested to see if he plays this year. That would have to take a lot of bad things going wrong in Washington. Other than Terry McLaurin, I hate everything about their offense. And even with that, I was scared to take him in fantasy because I didn't know if they could get really him the ball. So
yeah.
On the flip side, Philadelphia has nobody to throw the ball to as well right now, as Rager's out, Jeffrey's a walking crutch. I like Miles Sanders, and if anybody can do something with no receiver spike, Carson Wentz has been able to prove it over the last couple of years. Does anybody hear him?
I do not.
No.
That's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Are you on mute?
No, he's not.
No, it shouldn't be.
Oh, no, he's good. Yep, we're good.
Oh.
Okay.
My microphone decided to shut itself off. No, I was saying I couldn't give a flying fuck less about this game, or I couldn't give a flying fuck less about these two teams. Neither of them are interesting to me. Haskins, if he progresses, if he regresses, if they go to Alex Smith, whoop-de shit. This is a dumpster fire team. This is a bad division. This is not going to be a game worth watching unless you are a fan of one of these two teams, in which case, Godspeed. See you later. I don't care. Just, let's move on.
All right, moving on.
Wow. I don't know how I follow that up. That's something right there. But, I can't really disagree with you guys. Washington is certainly going to be behind the 8 ball, I think, for, most of these weeks here. It's just a team that, doesn't really do a whole lot well. I will say that Ron Rivera has a really, really good track record of doing a lot of great defensive work right away with teams. He turned around a Chicago defense. I know this was a while back that really did not have a lot of good players on paper. And they only allowed 22 or 23 points a game right away with some pretty poor talent his first year there. We really all thought he was going to be the next head coach of that team, and that never really transpired. But I really like what he does. He's a great schemer. He's a really intelligent defensive coach. And I think we're going to see we would have to see some of that, I would guess, right away. He's just too good at doing that. But, as you said, Spike, it's a team that you can't really back or get excited about unless you're a fan of it. I can't see it here. I'm not a big fan of Philadelphia this year either, but this is a really nice early game, I think, for Philly to get their feet wet. This will probably be the worst team they play, and they get to play them twice this year. So certainly it's hard not to like Philly in this game, at least to win. Whether they can cover the 5.5, that's TBD. But should be I would assume a pretty comfortable win for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to find a positive of the football team here, it's the defensive front four. I mean, you have the new draft pick, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, a first-round pick, Daron Payne, a first-round pick, and Montez Sweat, a first-round pick. You've got a line full of promising young superstars there on the front line. And don't forget on the back, in the rotation, you got Ryan Kerrigan who can still do things. If I had to find a positive for this team, it's that front four. But there's not much.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Philly also has two very decent tight ends. I mean, you got Zach Ertz and you got Dallas Goedert, and that will be able to help Wentz in this game. I mean, you got two bad teams in this shitty division, and maybe Philly wins the division. Maybe. I don't know.
I highly doubt it. Yeah,
it's going to be tough. Yes, certainly going to be tough, I would think. But yeah.
Interesting. All right, we'll move on from that one. It doesn't sound like anybody really has a strong opinion on that except for Spike. All right, Token, here we go. Week 1 of your Detroit Lions. They are oh, my God.
New season!
Wow.
Oh,
nice.
God. They're 0-0. Might be their best record of the year. They are favorites. They're favorites in this game. They're 2.5-point favorites against the Chicago Bears. 42.5 is the total at Westgate. You know what? You start us off here.
I mean, they just picked up Adrian Peterson. I believe they are going with him as the starter. I mean,
oh dear Jesus!
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That kind of surprised me, naming him as the starter. Kerryon, I thought was going to be the go-to guy week 1.
Of course.
But
maybe Adrian Peterson will just be out there for the first snap.
One report that I just read is Galladay's doubtful for week 1.
Yeah, hamstring injury.
That's going to be a big loss for Detroit. That pretty much bumps up Marvin Jones Jr. to the number 1, which, yeah. And, I mean, Hockenson, who knows how he's going to develop? Is he going to be the starter for the tight end position?
Yes.
I would assume so, but however, I don't think he'll be a every down tight end, and I don't trust Patricia with this Detroit team. It just doesn't seem like he's got the locker rooms geared straight. Chicago, they're going with Trubisky. Yeah, that's god awful. I mean, they got a decent running back to kind of carry that team, it looks like. So,
Spike, I know you're loving this game. Fire them all.
Yeah. I wasn't actually there for that conversation, but I do love that story. I mean, it's the NFC North. Those games are always interesting, even if the teams are shit. It's just it's going to be an interesting thing. I think that Galladay injury, as much as Token talked it up, I think he underplayed exactly how important that injury is to that team, especially if he can't play. I think this is it's going to be interesting. Trubisky. Yeah, I mean, he's thrown the ball occasionally, so I guess that qualifies him as a quarterback. That's about the best thing I can say about him. I mean, it's just,
he completes every once in a while.
Yeah, no, it'll be an interesting game. Not one I'd want to watch. I mean, this to me looks like two teams that would be the backups on any decent CFL roster. So I'm curious to see how they come out in this game.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of really good players in this game, but you're right. They're not the sexiest teams here. I got to agree with you with the Mitch Trubisky thing. I mean, I'm not really super in love with the fact that Nick Foles could be a starting quarterback again, but Nick Foles couldn't beat out Trubisky unless what's his face, Matt Nagy is just going down with the Mitch ship at this point, Tony.
Very interesting. They traded a bunch of guys and are paying him, and they're paying him to sit on the bench. It makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. But yeah, I don't know.
How short is that leash?
It's going to be pretty short, I would think, because he knows that if he doesn't get it done this year, they're going to move on from him. It's a team. It's team structured. So yeah. I mean, I'm not in love with either one of them, to be honest with you. But if, you're going to trade for a guy and pay him, I mean, there's no reason not to play him. But, yeah, so I don't like either one of these teams in this division. I think this division also takes a step back this season. I'm not surprised the Lions are favored here. I've not been high on the Bears now for at least well over a year. I think they're going in the wrong direction in many different ways. Again, it's not a game I'm interested in watching. It really isn't. And even the total here at 42.5, you do not see that many low totals with Detroit very often. They've had so many bad defensive years, as Token, and you just don't, and a quarterback that can, certainly throw the ball down the field. You just don't see those kind of numbers. So obviously that's very Chicago influenced. I understand that, with the defense that they have, but it's a weird number here. I did not expect this number to be this low. So, I'm not, we'll talk about our picks later on, but that's a very interesting number.
All right, Indianapolis and Jacksonville here. We think that the tank for Trevor sweepstakes starts here in Jacksonville. They are an 8-point dog at home against Indianapolis. 45 is the total. I'll just say this right off the bat, Spike. I don't think Phillip Rivers should be giving anyone 8 points, even the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the road.
Nah, I think the Jaguars.
If it was going to be one team,
right.
Even still, I don't know.
I obviously, harping on the quarterbacks is, kind of cliche in the NFL, but it is the most important position, at least in the NFL, if not all of sports. So the wild card here is obviously Phillip Rivers. What he can do in Indianapolis. Is he even the starter? I guess I didn't even know if he beat out what's his name, Brisket.
He's the starter. He was the starter the day he signed.
Yeah, I had hoped that was the case.
Or else they wouldn't have brought him in if Brisket was the guy. You got me saying Brisket. Brissett.
I didn't know if that had been
Brisket sounds good right now.
I didn't know if that had been announced as being official. By the way, I did watch 2 episodes of that Netflix barbecue Masters special, and it is amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the minute Phillip Rivers held up the jersey, he was the starting quarterback.
Yeah, and that obviously makes sense. I just again, I hadn't heard if that had been announced, but Yeah, I think that is probably why people are excited about this Indianapolis team, especially going against a team that is as bad as Jacksonville. I mean, let's face it, this is a practice game for them. This is Alabama playing, Bob's upstairs university so that they can go out and, just get their practice in. Indianapolis should be good here. They are a decent team. I believe, are they the favorite to win that division? I guess I didn't look at those futures.
Yes, they are.
They are. So, the story will be Phillip Rivers. It will be how he gels with this offense. And I think we're in for a good old fashioned slobber knocker here.
Tony, I mean, under this current regime, I mean, and Frank Reich and these guys, the Jacksonville versus Indy games have been either close or Jacksonville's taking me. Indianapolis has only won one game in the last 3 years against Jacksonville by more than 6 points. These games are close. And I know that history doesn't mean everything. I know that this team doesn't have Fournette, doesn't have, well, really anything. But I mean, I feel like this is a prime spot where a team with no preseason, a 9-year-old quarterback, could struggle out of the gate. And they have a rookie running back, more than likely going to be the starter.
Yep.
I don't love Gardner Minshew, but I mean, I don't know. I see a close spot here. I really do.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable spot. I could not agree more. What you said, I looked at the past history too because I was curious. I did it only out of curiosity. I didn't realize they had played this many close games. I thought that was strange. I know Jacksonville had a good
and when
club.
Jacksonville wins, they beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, they had a couple of big wins. I know it's really weird,
including last year.
Well, that's right. The one game last year. You're right. Yes,
they destroyed Indy.
It's hard to argue with either one of these points because. Spike correctly says that, Jacksonville is really, I mean, if you're going to be laying 8 points on the road, this is the team to do it. I think this is clearly the worst team in the NFL. It's another season win bet that I have. I got them Jacksonville under 5 wins. Glad I made that one a while ago because they're down to 4.5 now. So, but yeah, it's but to win by more than 8 is just hard to do on the road. And as you said, with this old ass quarterback and I don't know. I mean, I like Indy. I like what they're doing. It's not like it's a team I dislike. I just don't want to be laying this many points on the road. So, again, I'm all for people that want to lay the chalk here in this spot, but it's just not a game I'm comfortable in. And I'll watch to see how Indy looks with all these new players. But I don't know. I'm not really. I'm not excited to be betting it. That's for sure.
Yeah, out of the gate, this Indy team's going to kind of struggle, I believe, with Rivers in the helm of things. But I think come halftime, they're going to have some chemistry going, and it's going to be a whole different ball game and slaughter fest.
So. I don't know. I like Indy as a team, like you said, if Rivers can be right, but just no practice. I mean, you could talk about chemistry and practice and stuff. I'm sorry, no practice, no preseason. Not having guys hit you like that. I've never been high on Phillip Rivers, and just because he moved teams doesn't make me feel any better. So, all right, Green Bay and Minnesota. I think this is probably one of the better games of the front slate here. Minnesota is a 2.5-point home favorite, total 45. On the last podcast on the gambling show, Tony and I talked about it. We were high on Minnesota here. I'm a little lower on Green Bay than I think you are. I feel like there might be some serious uneasiness here in Green Bay, especially if they start out slow. I mean, I don't think Packer fans – I think they're very loyal, and I don't think they'll actively turn on Aaron Rodgers, but they did just draft a quarterback in the first round. So the backup quarterback's always the most popular guy in the city. Spike, 2.5-point favorite here in Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, at this point in time, might be the best quarterback in the division.
Ooh, spicy hot take there. You could certainly make that argument, especially if Aaron Rodgers. I'm not convinced that Aaron Rodgers is playing healthy. Even when now that he's had the full offseason to recover, I'm not convinced that there isn't permanent damage in his body somewhere, somehow, that he's just not disclosing. Either the team knows about it or they don't, but there's something wrong with the guy. based on what we've seen in the past, and it's not just a time factor where, time catches up to everybody, players get worse. I think he's just something is not right with him. So saying that Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback in the division, I don't think that's far off. I don't know. I think this is another one of those spots where that no crowd noise, no home field advantage to speak of is going to come into play. Because this Minnesota team is very good, but I think having the fans in that brand new Death Star looking stadium that they built the other couple of years ago should help them out, or it would help them out. But having the no fans there late in the game, I don't know if that's going to be a factor. I think it is definitely going to be a fun game for those watching. Definitely going to be one to watch out for. I think that 2.5 number is probably exactly where it needs to be. So, this could come down to that last second field goal, and not to steal the cliche from Token Tony, but it could go either way.
First one. Nice.
Yeah.
Really well done.
It wasn't from Token.
I was worried he wasn't going to remember to say it because he is kind of dumb and he kind of
I've been toning down on that statement.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think this is a good number too. Yeah, I mean we did talk about it in the last one. I think Minnesota is the best team in the NFC. I got them to get that number 1 seed and the only team to get the bye this year. I think we'll see them really, really rise this year. And I don't disagree with you, Aaron. I think Green Bay I have them down a notch as well. I think there's been a lot of turmoil in this offseason, a lot of unknown. The whole Aaron Rodgers quarterback situation, having a second year head coach that hasn't navigated these waters yet. I love what he does, X's and O's, love his football IQ, but I'm just not sure he can handle this type of situation, especially going up against a juggernaut. I mean, Minnesota's a juggernaut here. Again, I think the line's tight though. I think it's a good line. But it's going to be tough for me, at least specifically, to be betting against Minnesota pretty much any time this year, barring injury or what have you. I think it's going to be a really, really, really strong team.
Yeah, and I mean, Token, I think the Green Bay Packers, the turmoil was self-inflicted. I mean, we talked about drafting Jordan Love when you have Aaron Rodgers. I know we did this 15 years ago with Brett Favre. But the one position that the Packers needed to address, wide receiver, they did nothing. Free agency or the draft, they did nothing. True. And, I mean, I don't want to disrespect the guys they have there now. Obviously, Devontae Adams is a stud. But the Valdez-Scantling, Lazard, St. Brown triangle is just – it's – unless they take a big step, that's where they're going to be bit in the butt.
Yeah, and, I mean, if you have those three guys as your top three, it's not a good situation. And, I mean, Rodgers is steaming at the organization for not having any help for him at all. It doesn't help that his contract's big where they don't really have a lot of room to work with all the other bits and pieces. But
I think they could have just gotten anybody and people.
Yeah, you could have drafted a 7-rounder and at least he would have been smirking a little instead of just like furious. But yeah, this Minnesota team, both sides of the ball, is going to be good. This game probably is between the winners of the division and probably going Minnesota's way. I mean, you got Dalvin Cook as the running back for Minnesota. Cousins leading this charge, very good with game management, and it's going to be a good year for Minnesota, I believe.
Yeah, I'll agree. I mean, despite all the turmoil we just talked about with Green Bay, they're still a pretty good team, and these games are always close. So I think you're right. The 2.5 line is probably spot on, and I think we're probably looking at that total might be really close too. I think we're probably looking at a field goal game. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on this one. Chargers in Cincinnati. Another game to me, Spike, that Chargers are a 3-point favorite on the road. Cincinnati, 41.5. Other than Joe Burrow, seeing how his first game goes, especially in an unprecedented year with no preseason, this is literally it. It's like college football. I mean, there's no preseason in college football too.
Yep.
I don't really have any other large vested interest in watching this game.
Yeah, I mean, it is the Joe Burrow show. There's no other reason to watch this game. And if the Tom Brady show wasn't on at the same time slot, I'm sure this is the game that would dominate the afternoon airwaves.
Over Kyler Murray?
Are you high?
Am I high? He's one of the most exciting players in the game.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
And the defending NFC champions? I think that would get a better rating than LA and Cincinnati.
No, people would want to watch Joe Burrow, not the fact that they have to suffer through a Chargers and Bengals game. I think there's a big difference there. It's week 1. If it was week 2 and this were the game, I would say absolutely not. Nobody would watch this game no matter what. But it's week 1. People want to know what they can do about Joe Burrow, what they can see in Joe Burrow, so they can make the snap wrong judgments about Joe Burrow and about his career. So if he wins the game, they're going to overreact and try to put him in the Hall of Fame already. If he loses the game, he's a bum. He's not ready for prime
So this
time.
is the Max Kellerman game, huh?
Exactly. So this is why I think this game is important. I think this is why people are going to watch. But again, I don't think that it'll beat out the Tom Brady show later on in that afternoon. As far as the actual game goes, I think the Chargers -3. I mean, Cincinnati with the brand new quarterback, Chargers with the brand new quarterback. Neither of these teams are exciting. Neither of these teams are in divisions that they can win. I don't know. 3, yeah, probably a good line because there's just too many unknowns about these teams. And we talk about the players not having the preseason where they can warm up. The bookmakers haven't had a preseason where they can warm up either. So they have no idea what to make of these teams and how they're going to stack up. This number could be completely off. I
was curious about that too. I was going to ask Tony that. How do you feel that odds makers feel right now? Because this is their biggest handle. This is obviously the NFL, and they've had nothing. They've had nothing to go off of. No preseason, nothing. So I don't know. I'm curious to know in your brain how they feel. He's right. This might be a completely bogus line. I was shocked to see 3.
Yeah, this came up. I've been listening to quite a few of these odds makers and directors of sports books talk about this week and the upcoming and what they believe in and stuff like that. And this question's come up a couple of times: is how confident do you feel about your numbers, or where do you guys think you've made a mistake, or what have you? And from what I've heard, it's about same old type of stuff. I think they feel pretty good about it, especially week 1, because these lines again have been up for about 3 months. Like, I don't remember that. So if there have been any issues, really, they've kind of been ironed out a little bit. They didn't take a huge amount of handle for that first month, but
no, we didn't know if we were gonna have a season.
Yeah. So I mean, it's I would say they're probably pretty good now. It doesn't mean that they're going to be close. So certainly, I mean, you're right, Spike. I mean, the Cincinnati could lose the game by 30, and it wouldn't be like that shocking, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think they're probably pretty confident in what they're doing. It's still, the public makes lots and lots and lots of mistakes, betting these types of things, and obviously you're still paying the juice. So I would say from the odds makers' perspective, I think they're pretty happy that the NFL is back. But it's really interesting. Yeah, we lose the quarterback here in with Los Angeles, but there's still quite a few good players on offense, and quite a few guys that can really, I think, be game changers. Austin Eckler, I think, was phenomenal. It was still more of a bit of a change of pace back, but even when he was the full-on starter for the 5 or 6 weeks of the holdout, he was quite a good dynamic player, both catching the ball and running with it. And, still a really good wide receiver core. Tyrod Taylor has been there, done that before. He's taken a Buffalo Bills team to the playoffs that was a complete dump shit 3 years ago. I mean, that team was terrible.
Won a playoff game.
Made the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it was really quite amazing. So I'm not writing off the Chargers all the way here. I'm not as high as you are, Aaron, on them. But I do think that they have something. And so that's the side that I would be sort of thinking about here, just because we have so much unknown with Cincinnati. And, with this pure-on rookie quarterback, without any practice or anything like that, it's just going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that situation, Tony. I mean, not chemistry going their way, at least with the Chargers. You have some bits and pieces to kind of lead the charge and see what happens. I mean, you probably got maybe arguably the top 3, top 5 best running back in the game currently.
Whoa.
With who?
Whoa.
Eckler.
Wow. That's bold.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, if you count his receptions too, I mean, I'd say he's top 3 or top 5 in my opinion. I think they are able to use him almost as a every down back, and he's going to get plenty of touches this season. So,
okay,
fair enough.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
He just said top 10. I agree with you. I don't know about top 5. We'll see. He could end up finishing that way, especially Keenan Allen, Mike Williams really can't stay healthy, so he may be leaned on a lot more than expected. So okay, we'll see. All right, so Arizona, San Francisco, game I think will be more exciting to watch than the last game.
Absolutely.
I think we get a very interesting matchup, a division matchup. Again, we got a lot of division matchups, but San Francisco is a touchdown favorite. One thing I did notice, we don't have any double-digit favorites this week. I thought that was a little surprising. I think most of the time when you have the division weeks, you're not going to get those anyways. Total 48 right here, a little high, given the San Francisco defense plays very well, but we'll see. Again, Kyler Murray, exciting to watch, Spike. More exciting than Joe Burrow, in my opinion. At any point in this season, I think will be. San Francisco, we'll see what happens. All things being healthy, they're probably a clear-cut better team than Arizona, but these division games get a little weird.
So I am going to jump the gun a little bit and make a bold prediction of the week for this game.
We'll see how bold this is.
I will say this game does not get played.
Because of the fires?
The air quality in that area right now is at about 85 to 90% of the threshold the EPA would say that they would need to lock out the game from happening and essentially re-quarantine people. Because it's at a point where if the fires are not contained by Sunday, this game ain't going to get played.
They're playing golf this week in that area?
Not necessarily.
Yeah, they're playing.
They are playing right now. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they're playing right now. I'm saying by Sunday, if the air quality gets worse, they're not going to be allowed to.
I see.
It's too late to move that game to Vegas. I mean, the stadium's open.
Right.
It could be the first NFL game in.
Can move it to Vegas. They can move it to Seattle.
It's not played by the Las Vegas Raiders.
No, they can move it to University of Oregon. I don't know what the smoke looks like up there. But
I think in Oregon it's probably worse.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, Vegas would be an option, but I mean that requires getting everybody on the team on the planes. Then you worry about breaking quarantines, breaking bubbles, and if everybody's wearing masks and the whole thing. And then is the testing done until there's a lot that would go into moving a team or moving two teams, full entourages and all that last minute.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
It's fair. I wonder. I just can't imagine that being
played.
good for the NFL to have a game that wasn't played unless they decide to play it during a weekday or something. Yeah. I mean, the other option, again, I know that moving and the logistics would be crazy, but moving this game to Arizona and then flipping the home game from Arizona later, I don't know.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll switch it to Monday.
Good idea.
Have 3 Monday games
But we record this on Friday. They probably would have had to do that by now. So interesting.
Most likely. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, there's a chance it might not play. That's an interesting spot, but. The real bigger issue is making it up. I mean, especially with football is the one sport I think that making up a game with the amount of effort and force that goes into playing one game, finding a spot to make up another game is hard. Yeah. Could be a disaster.
Very difficult. Yeah,
true.
So, all right, let's move into what many people are calling the game of the week, the NFC South here. Tom Brady's Tampa Bay experience, or Tampa Bay. That's just terrible that he trademarked that. New Orleans a 3.5-point favorite in this game. The total is 48. I think we're going to get a lot of different opinions here on this. So, Spike, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right that we should be getting a lot of different opinions on this game because these, obviously New Orleans is, based on last year, an unbelievable team. We know what they can do. I'm curious to see if Drew Brees looks another year older or if Drew Brees looks like the Drew Brees of old. I kind of am wondering the same thing with Tom Brady to see what he can do. Again, we talked about it before, quarterbacks not having the ability to develop that chemistry with their receivers. I think this hurts Tom Brady more than anybody else in the league this year, especially given his history where even with, receivers and tight ends that he knows, it still takes him a couple of weeks to get worked up, to get that chemistry and to get going. So he always does kind of start off slow. There are conspiracy theories out there that says that Brady kind of does that on purpose because the last couple of years he didn't give a shit and didn't want to be a Patriot, but he was under contract. So that has the potential to play a factor into it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of the outside factors to look at when we're thinking about this game. I think that number coming in at 3.5. I think at Westgate right now, New Orleans is, still sitting at 3.5 point favorite. I think that some people are going to think that the number is way too low. Some people are going to think that the number is way too high. So this is a really interesting spot. I think this is a good spot for the people who feel confident one way or the other to go nuts. I mean, just go ham. That's what the books want you to do. I think no matter what, it's going to be an entertaining game to watch. Obviously, Tampa Bay's defense is probably improved with Ndamukong Suh.
He was
let's
there
go.
last year.
What's that?
I said he was there last year. They were pretty terrible. So.
Oh, was he? I thought he just signed this year. Well, whatever. I don't pay enough attention to like all of Florida anyway. It's America's genital wart infested penis. So there's no point in paying attention to anything that comes out of Florida.
That would make California the genital infested butt.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
That.
Yeah, all right.
Like that?
Back to the game.
There's a game?
There apparently is, I guess. I don't know. It's these are two kind of wait and see teams for me. Especially I want to see how the offense develops and how much different it is from last year to this year. I think for Tampa Bay is going to be really, really fascinating to watch. And for better or worse, it doesn't necessarily have to get a whole lot better. They played from behind a lot last year. Again, I'm not saying it was a good quarterback performance at all, not in the least. But, if defensively they don't get any better, this team is still going to struggle. There's no question. A 43-year-old quarterback that can't throw the ball down the field is not going to improve your team if your defense is that bad. But they probably can't be as bad as last year. And again, with a new coaching staff, and I think really just a new commitment. It seems like, a lot of the guys have talked to. I've followed this team really, really, really closely because I'm really intrigued by it. And there's a lot of guys that have not only just are excited for this year, but they've re-signed too. They've signed extensions. They had 3 defensive players sign extensions this year, and a couple of those guys didn't really play all that well. So I think there's a lot of positivity with this team. And so again, I'm really intrigued by this, and I'm not a big fan of New Orleans going this year either. So we'll see how it goes. Again, this is a wait and see for me. I'm just going to kind of see how it goes, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you probably got the sexy game of the week to watch for sure. This one, it's a game full of question marks, and we might see a decent amount of answers to come with this one. I mean, is Breeze healthy? Is Breeze as good as he once was? Is he kind of washed up? How Brady will do chemistry-wise with this team, how Fournette will kind of click with this offense. This Tampa Bay's offensive line is probably undershadowed in this spot almost too. I mean, I think they actually have a pretty decent offensive line. They're able to work with it, and it's going to be an interesting game to watch. I think it's going to be a close one. Definitely fun to watch, though.
Yeah, I think the situation with the Saints, I mean, a lot of the question marks, obviously the Alvin Kamara situation that's been going on here for the last couple of weeks, it looks like he's going to be a part of this team. He's not going to be moved out. I think the situation here is this is probably going to have to be Sean Payton's best coaching job. He has a quarterback who, like you said, Tony, cannot throw the ball down the field really that much anymore. It's one of the reasons I really wasn't high on Michael Thomas in the fantasy world.
Yeah.
I think between Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, Emmanuel Sanders, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, Jared Cook, Josh Hill, and Taysom Hill, I think it's going to take every single part of this offense to make Drew Brees look better than he actually is right now. And if that's successful, you're right, this team is marching right back to the second round and beyond. If that's not successful, I pin that on Sean Payton. I look at almost that Sean Payton takes the Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels approach. We go to a dink and dunk offense here and let your playmakers, Drew Brees throws 7 yards, Michael Thomas takes the other 83. Yep. Something like that. I think if they can utilize every single weapon and keep them all healthy, Drew Brees doesn't have to be Drew Brees of before. And he may not, whether he is or not, if Sean Payton can make it to where he doesn't have to be, this team's still going to be great. I love their defense. I mean, the front four is good. Malcolm Brown, who came from New England, Cameron Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, first-round picks, Marcus Davenport, first-round pick. The secondary, phenomenal. Janoris Jenkins, who they picked up for a bag of chips. Malcolm Jenkins, who came over from Philly. Lattimore, who we all know at cornerback's one of the best in the league. And then Marcus Williams, we all know him for that play in Minnesota, but he's actually quietly become a really good free safety. I think this is the best team in the South. It's just, again, is Sean Payton going to have to swallow his pride and Drew Brees swallow his pride, and they're going to have to be a team offense instead of relying on Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas alone. So we'll see. Time will tell with that one on the whole season. But you're right. This is probably a sexy game to watch. All eyes are going to be on Brady. I mean, it's the first time he's been in a new uniform in 20 years, so we'll see. All right, moving on to the Sunday night game inside the new stadium. They built another $2 billion stadium that puts nobody in the seats. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the LA Rams. Dallas is a 2-point favorite. Total of 51.5. Probably our highest total. That's not the Kansas City game this week. So I think they're expecting a lot of offense in this one as well. Spike, you're the anti-Jared Goff kind of guy here. He gets to christen the new stadium here against Dallas, who many people believe are going far this year, but they've shown time and time again it's a new regime. Maybe Jason Garrett was the issue.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas is going to be the story of this game. LA playing in LA. Goff is whatever. But yeah, I think the Mike McCarthy era is certainly going to be one to watch. I'm curious to see how Dak and Zeke work together now under this new offense, especially given how offensively minded Mike McCarthy is supposed to be. Even though Jason Garrett was as well, I think that this kind of new look offense could actually make some noise. I kind of like what the Cowboys are doing, even though I don't necessarily like the Cowboys. So, and I'm not just saying this because I have Zeke in fantasy. The other side of it is, I'm not excited about the Rams at all. I mean, they went from being in the Super Bowl to being significantly worse to what did they do in the offseason to improve? Nothing of note that I can think of.
I mean, they lost a lot of guys. They lost Fowler. They lost Brandon Cook. So you're right.
Exactly. I mean, and they brought in nobody to replace key players that walked or that, whatever. I mean, it's just I am curious to see how this game goes. I am curious to see what the new stadium looks like. It's not going to be as nice as the Vegas Stadium because the Vegas Stadium has a Fuku burger in it, which is going to be fantastic.
It's not going to do a lot of sales.
Well, yeah, not now, but when it does open up, it will be the best burger place in any stadium in North America.
And remember, it will be credit card only.
And it will be credit card only, which is kind of weird for a town that is so cash-based like Vegas. But, yeah, no, you can christen a toilet too. It doesn't mean that you've done it in a good and positive way. So, Goff can do Goff things and turn it over. So, yeah, that's my bold prediction on this one as well, is that Goff does Goff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Goff either, but I actually, surprisingly enough, like this team a lot this year. I think that, yeah, they got rid of a lot of pieces on defense, but I actually think it was a lot of the right guys to get rid of. And I love the defensive backs, especially the corners this year, not only with Jalen Ramsey, but Darius Williams was incredible last year in the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's kind of an unforgotten thing because they weren't really playing for a whole lot, but a guy that really stepped up finally after 2 or 3 years. He was a really top-end pick. And they have some other guys like Troy Hill. I know I've been watching for a while, too. He might even start opposite of Jalen Ramsey. A fantastic player, a couple of good safeties, too. I just think this is going to be a really, really good defense. I love the head coach a lot. I think he's better than nearly almost everybody out there. And they win close games. When this team is not vomiting on themselves, they win a lot of close games. They have over the last 2 out of 3 years. So, again, I think it's going to be a tough task, certainly to beat Dallas. Dallas is by far, in my opinion, the best team in that division, in the division they play in, and is a tall order. They're really good on both sides of the ball. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the stadium looks. I'm always kind of intrigued by this. I like to see these new places, and at least on Sunday Night Football, I'm sure we'll get a chance to kind of look. They'll take the camera into a bunch of different spots, so that'll be kind of fun, just from the random perspective there. But I think this will be a great game. I think it'll be a really, really, really good game. If it's close, I like the Rams a lot here. I really do. So, and I think it's going to be probably pretty close. But don't sleep on either one of these defenses. Yeah, the offensive guys get a lot of the press, but both of these defenses, there's a lot of great players on both sides.
Yeah, they're kind of hidden this one, and I think it really comes down to head coaching and who can maintain this clock management and keep their offense on the field and prevent the other team from scoring or even moving the ball past midfield. And it's going to be an interesting one to watch. So tune in.
I will do. I'm convinced. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm high on Dallas this year, but I was high on Dallas last year, and they seem to be the epitome of mediocrity, despite the talent. They have virtually the same team.
But no Jason Garrett, though. That's good.
That's what I said. We'll see what
that's improvement.
We'll see how much Jason Garrett mattered. I was one of the people that believed that he really didn't, despite the fact that I'm still high on Dallas this year. I mean, there's so much talent there. I don't know how they can't put it together. So I'm hoping this year's the case. So, all right, Monday night games here. We got Pittsburgh and the Giants. We'll run through these two quickly before we give you our picks. Pittsburgh and the Giants. Pittsburgh's a 5.5-point road favorite. 46.5 is the total. Giants, Danny Dimes year 2. Ben Roethlisberger coming back from an injury. Not really sure what to make of this game.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's kind of an odd case study to me because we saw what they were able to do and fight through all the injuries they had last year. We saw that they were able to be competitive in games where they probably shouldn't have been competitive. But now you have to wonder if, is that going to cause discord in the locker room? Like, are players going to choose, a backup over Roethlisberger? Are they going to think that Roethlisberger is done? I see you guys shaking your heads, but I don't know. We've seen this before where we have the young upstarts come in. They didn't necessarily get to know or, like the old entrenched star, and they started throwing their support behind the young guy. I think we could see a case of that in Pittsburgh.
I'm sorry. I think there's zero chance this team throws its support to Mason Rudolph.
Why not?
Because he wasn't good.
He wasn't good last year. He has a little bit of controversy.
He was fine. He was fine.
He might be on concussion protocol still.
You might be on
first of all,
protocol.
this isn't a winnable division anyway. I mean, Baltimore's just going to blow all these teams out of the water, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Says the guy who bet Pittsburgh to win the division 2 podcasts ago.
Did I? I'm going to go back and rewatch that because I don't.
Okay.
I certainly don't remember that, but it's. I think I said they have a shot at it, but I still think that Baltimore is the better team, top to bottom.
Agreed.
I don't know. I just, I'm not convinced that Danny Dimes is the answer, no matter who Pittsburgh throws out there. I think that the Giants are kind of interesting, but they're still a couple of years away. So, it'll be an interesting, a good, fun Monday night game to get people back in. I think this is one to watch on the total. And I think this will be one that people are, if we had water coolers anymore, I think this would be the game that people would be talking about as opposed to the later game on Monday night.
Yeah, they're going to either one of these games, I'm not sure I like either one of them, to be honest with you. They might both be kind of snoozers, but certainly better than the late game. I agree with you there. I don't like what the Giants have this year. Again, I think, as you said, Spike, at least a couple of years away here from anything, realistic. And we'll see, how a special teams coach can be as a head coach. That's an interesting proposition. I'm not saying it can't work. It certainly has. I would say John Harbaugh is probably the best example, of that. But I don't know. I'm not really sure what to make of this Giants team. They didn't really seem to get all that much better on either side of the ball either. And yeah, as you said, with the quarterback, how well can he develop? That's certainly TBD, but it's just a tough spot, I think, for the Giants. And as we saw, Pittsburgh hung in there. last year when a lot of guys were hurt. It wasn't even just the quarterback position. And they're going to be, I think, significantly better this year. I do think they can give Baltimore a run. And Baltimore with the massive injury risk that's there with the quarterback, I just feel like it's a good enough spot here to take a number with Pittsburgh. But I believe they should handle the Giants relatively easily in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, you got Big Ben back in the backfield. You got Connor that should be actually pretty decent off the gate this time around. And you still got Juju. I mean, Juju's definitely one of the better wide receivers in the game. Not the best, but he's clearly capable of having that number one position. And when this team's healthy, they're definitely going to be a handful to be competing against. The Giants, on the other hand, they got a lot of health factors. That they don't have a lot of bits and pieces. They have a few decent players, but that defense looks pretty damn bad. So,
fair enough. I guess I disagree with all of you. I think I'm a little higher on the Giants, but this all goes with Daniel Jones. I'm way more higher on Daniel Jones than I was on Dwayne Haskins. I think of those two in that draft who will continue to be compared to each other because of all the controversy that it created, I think Daniel Jones will be the more successful and the longest tenured. If Saquon Barkley stays healthy, I think this team is poised. And I said this on the gambling show. This is the 7th seed in the NFC. So I believe they're better. I think the defense is actually better than token you're giving them credit for. I think they added a few good pieces. The question really to me is, the Giants have been good when they've had that thunder and lightning combination. You know, the Tiki Barber, Brandon Jacobs, Tiki Barber, Rondane, and then they had the Brandon Jacobs. You know, I think they've been better with that. They don't have that thunder. They have Saquon Barkley, and backing him up is Deion Lewis. While Deion Lewis is a fine player, he can't run. They don't have a guy who can run between the tackles. So that may be an Achilles heel for them. I think they got plenty of receivers. They got a stud, hopefully, from Georgia to be able to protect Jones's blind side. Again, this is the number 7 seed here for me in the NFC. So I think they're better than you guys are giving them credit for. And I have no idea what Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back to. Is he going to hurt himself again? I mean,
possibly.
We have no idea what Ben Roethlisberger is going to look like after a year off. And, you know, it's funny because I could be wrong, but I remember you guys really not being high on Roethlisberger last year. So it surprises me that you guys are high on him this year. So. All right, the last game, Tennessee versus Denver. Tennessee on the road, a 2.5-point favorite. I feel like we got this game last year on Monday night to begin, too. I don't feel like looking back in the archives, but total 41.5. It surprised me this year that Tennessee wasn't the favorite to win the AFC South this year. They brought everybody back that they had in that game. A lot of people thinking that was really a fluke last year, that playoff run. So we'll see. But they are favorites here tonight, or Monday night's token or spike against the Denver Broncos, or all of you.
So, the truth be told, I kind of forgot Denver had a football team. They've done well. I mean, what have they done? What are they doing to improve? What are they doing to be competitive in a division that's obviously dominated by one team? They're
Did you forget that Miami, the Jets, and the Bills had football teams for 20 years too?
No, but at least they tried. At least they put up a fight every once in a
Denver
while.
was 8-8 last year.
Can you say the same about the Lions for 20 years?
Well, no, but I mean,
exactly.
I
think Denver's gotten exponentially better on offense. The defense, Von Miller being out, if he's actually out for the year, is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Tennessee. I do agree that Tennessee probably should have been the sexy pick to win the division over Indianapolis. I know that that some people look at a new coach, new quarterback, a new system, and all that, and they'll be skeptical that it's not just a one-year fluke. And once the league figures out how to deal with them, then they're done. But I think with what Vrabel and I forget the quarterback's name there. Tannehill. That's it. I wanted to say Shanahan, but I was like, no, it's something like that. Kind of sounds like it. I think what Vrabel and Tannehill are doing down there, I think that they are legit. I think they're a good team. I'm kind of surprised. I'm actually really surprised that Denver opened as a favorite in this. I think that is surprising. But the fact that it's now moved to Tennessee minus 2.5 makes a lot of sense to me. I think that number is probably going to jump up before the game starts. I think you're going to see that full 3, if not 3.5, by the time kickoff happens.
Yeah, I'm very anti-Denver here. Von Miller or not, I don't care. I'm glad I got my season win under bet before he got hurt. That was nice. But besides that, I don't like anything about what Denver's doing. I'm not a fan of the offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, they brought in. He struggles in his first year at the helm in this spot. He has the previous 3 times. He's been at that job, and I don't like Drew Lock at all. Happy feet extraordinaire, bad decision making. I'm not a fan at all. Yeah, he had a couple of nice games last year. That's true, but he also had some spots too, like quarters where he just could not complete a pass for more than 7 yards. It's just, I'm not a fan. I just don't think he's an NFL starting type of quarterback. But, again, time will tell. We'll see. In Tennessee, I'm same way, Spike. I think this is still a good team. I love the head coach. I like what they're about. They don't make mistakes. They will grind you out and sit on your face. And it's a tough spot, really tough spot, I think, for Denver. So
interesting.
I'm surprised too.
Analogy.
You got Tennessee that pretty much brought back all their bits and pieces back. I mean, you still have Henry that can run the ball and produce a lot of yardage, especially after burning out a defense. Denver, I mean, they picked up Gordon. Locke's still, I think, decent, but he's got to develop more. And I think they're a couple years away from competing in that division and competing for some decent quality wins. It'll be a time to tell, and Von Miller being out, I think, definitely hurts Denver more than you guys kind of take credit for a little, except for maybe Aaron.
Actually, I was going to say it's big, but I don't know if it's huge. I mean, Bradley Chubb on the other side can definitely carry the weight. Denver's an interesting team. I think you either love them or you hate them. And I think the same with Tennessee. I think that shit last year was a fluke. I've said it in the last few podcasts that we talked about football. Derrick Henry will run out of gas this year. And unfortunately, there's nothing behind him. I don't trust Darrington Evans or Sonoris Perry. I wouldn't even have felt good if Deion Lewis was still there. I feel like this offense is way too predicated on Derrick Henry being successful. And this year we may have to see Ryan Tannehill actually be a quarterback. Now, I understand that, he had Adam Gase in Miami, so I try to throw that book out the window, but there's really nothing else that gives me hope or promise if Ryan Tannehill has to win games for this team. I just don't see anything that gives me
confidence,
excitement or confidence, except for when Tony says they're just going to sit on their face.
It's that type of team.
I mean, getting Clowney is big. Their defense is really good. I think Tennessee is going to be in a lot of under games due to the fact they can hold people, and I don't think they're going to be able to score at will. Like
they were last year. I think they were in 11 or 12 unders, I believe, in the regular season.
I think that trend continues. I mean, Mike Vrabel's a really good coach, and he's going to find a way to keep this team close. I think ultimately the ball is just going to bounce the wrong way for this team this year. I mean, A.J. Brown, you cover him, and Corey Davis sucks, in my opinion.
Wow.
I like Adam Humphries better than I like Corey Davis. Corey Davis is
harsh.
I mean, maybe that's just because he was like the 5th or 6th pick in the 17 draft. But I just don't.
That seems harsh. Wow. Yeah, I actually thought he developed pretty decently last year. Yeah,
I disagree, but we could be on different sides. If Tannehill has to win you a game, I don't trust it. So I feel like this is an 8-8 year for them, and it seems like, that's their MO. 8-8 years, 7-9, 9-7. That's just been them, and I don't know if this year it still might get them in the playoffs with an extra team. But if Derrick Henry runs out of gas, they're in trouble. So, all right, we've gotten through all the games. It's what seemed like 3 days. All right, it's time to make the picks. Token, we're going to start with you because everybody's waiting on bated breath to fade you.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So, hold on, wait. Token, your picks?
Okay, so I'm going to start out with my first one is going to be the under on the Buffalo and New York Jets football game. And that will be moved to 39.5. If it was on
it was already 39.5, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I really like that play. Jets, I don't see scoring more than 7 or 10, and Buffalo definitely under 24 in that game. So really solid play on that one. Second one might surprise you guys a little. I really like Indy this week, moving it to 8.5. Pittsburgh and Giants under 46.5. Minnesota minus the 2.5. And then Philly and Washington under 41.5.
Yeah, we got a couple similarities here, Token. Wow, that's I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe just fade everything. Yeah, I'm right with you. I got the New York Jets Buffalo under 39.5. Second selection, which I'm sort of just spitballing here because I really don't know what I'm doing, is Atlanta plus 2.5. Third one, we're going to actually go straight to the night games. Sunday night game. Kind of play the percentages here with these night games and how often they seem to go under. Pittsburgh and the Giants under 46.5, a la Token. The fourth selection, Dallas and the Los Angeles Rams under 51.5. I do love both of these defenses. And the fifth game, the Tennessee Titans minus 2.5 at Denver, because why did they not start out as a favorite, Spike? I don't know. So we'll take Tennessee minus 2.5.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird one for me. I actually avoided that game, but I think so far we're all on the Jets and Buffalo, but I'm not looking at the total. I'm actually taking the Jets plus a 6.5. As much as I talked up Buffalo earlier, I think I talked myself. I think if the game goes under, then you have to like the Jets in that spot, keeping it close, because as soon as it goes over that total, that means Buffalo's running away with it. I'm also on Atlanta plus a 2.5 against Seattle. I said it before, Galladay's injury is too huge. Give me Chicago plus a 2.5 against Detroit. Brady needs to get warmed up and can't do it in time. So give me the Saints minus the 3.5. And in Philadelphia versus Washington, it's under 41.5. I would have taken this at like under 30 at this point, because I think this game ends like 13-6. It's a nothing game that nobody's going to watch or care about.
I got to be surprised. We did overlap a few of these. We are all on the Jets and Bills game, which is shocking to me.
Wow! Fade the podcast.
Yeah. You two are on the total. Spike and I are on the spread. I am also on the Jets plus 6.5. I don't know how you talked yourself into that when you jizzed on Buffalo.
That was weird. Yeah, you're right.
But I loved it. I loved it too. I think that I'm a little higher on the Jets. Anyways, let's go on. Lions and Chicago Bears. I am on the flip side. I'm taking the Lions minus 2.5. I still think that a wide receiver, even with Galladay, is not worth flipping that hard for me. And I hate Trubisky. New Orleans minus 3.5. I'm with you on that side. I'm with you on the side with New Orleans minus 3.5. Minnesota beating the Green Bay Packers. I'm on minus 2.5 on there. And I am also on the Giants. It is at 6, so I have to move it to plus 5.5. I think the Giants win that game outright.
Whoa. Oh. Wow. That's relatively bold. Okay.
All right. So that is going to wrap up week one's podcast. Hope you're still with us. We've got the picks. Again, we'll keep track of that. We'll give you the updated totals every week as they come. We're looking very much forward to this, because usually by like week 8 or 9, our hair looks like spikes.
Yep.
So, all right, with that being said, we're going to thank the sponsors, 12 Ounce Sports, Zingo TV, Vice Golf, Fanatics, Wicked Cuts, Pro-Am Customs, and DC4L Custom Tees. They've been scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Check out their info on our page on the 12 Ounce Sports site. You can go to 12ouncesportsradio.com, click the Vegas Squares tab, click our sponsors, check them out, support them so they can continue to support us. And for Token Tony, for Spike, for Tony Johnson, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We will catch you on the next one.